Our reporter Patricia Visagie caught up with the Gauteng Transport MEC, Jacob Mamabolo, earlier on.
To unpack some of the details in the agreement between the Transport Department and, of course, the driving school owners, I'm now joined by the Gauteng MEC for Transport, Mr. Jacob Mamabolo, who will give us some of the major points that, of course, outlined this agreement that was signed yesterday. Thank you so much for joining us, MEC. Let's get straight into it. If you had to give us a summary, what are some of, the main points of this agreement?
So firstly, we have agreed with the driving schools and the Road Traffic Management Corporation that we need to create a platform for ongoing consultations, negotiations, discussions between the driving schools as a critical stakeholder, RTMC as the national custodian of the online booking system, so that as and when there are changes, the parties can sit around the table. And that is why we are creating in the agreement what we call the Gauteng Driving School Council. So the purpose of the council is precisely to make sure that any problem, any difficulty that may plunge the DLTCs into tipping points, which could lead to their closure or violence, those issues are managed in the council. The second part of the agreement, very much important, is that we need an online booking system that is much more friendly to the driving schools, which will support their businesses. Many of them are small, medium, micro enterprises, and therefore the platforms that we create must not work negatively against them and impact their businesses in a negative way. And to that extent, we have agreed we need a long-term sustainable solution, and the proposal on the table is to create what we call digital corporate accounts. In other words, the driving schools will be registered with the Road Traffic Management Corporation, and in return, the RTMC will create digital corporate accounts in which the driving schools will be able to service their clients without the frustrations and the difficulties that come with the current design of the online booking system. The last part is, as and when there are difficulties, we should promote negotiations as opposed to violence and conflict, because we have agreed our country is one of the shining models in the whole world where negotiations have demonstrated their full capacity to resolve problems. And we are very much pleased that just in the last week when we started with negotiations, as a condition to negotiate, we agreed that the driving schools must cease fire, they must stop all the violence and allow the driving schools to operate as a critical condition for us to negotiate. That was done. We are now entering the second week in which the DLTCs are functioning, and we are very much pleased about that. So whenever there are challenges and difficulties, we are better when we institutionalize conflict and sit around the table. Those are the three critical elements in the agreement.
Now, some of the changes that will, of course, be enabled in the Unitas system, when exactly will this take place? When will these changes be completed?
So there are two sets of solutions. The first one is a temporary solution, which would have started last night at 12 o'clock midnight. So that is the temporary arrangement in which from today up to end of June this year, the driving schools will be able to transact and interact with on the online booking system without those aspects that they say are alienating them and making the system not to be user-friendly to them. The second part is on the 1st of July, we want to commence with the digital corporate account. So for 3 months, the Road Traffic Management Corporation must be designing the solution so that the interim solution come to an end by the end of June. And when we start July, we want to launch formally the digital corporate accounts in which the driving schools can service their members without the frustrations of the online booking system.
The council that you are talking about, who will be part of it? If you can just, in a nutshell, break that down.
The council will be constituted of 3 parties in the main. The first one is driving school associations. And I must mention that there are different driving school associations. The second party to the agreement will be the Road Traffic Management Corporation, because they are the custodian of the entire e-NATI system in the whole country. So they need to be part of the council. The third party is us as the provincial government. We will be convening and chairing the council, and we have appointed a deputy director general to be the convener and the chair of the council. So these 3 parties are critical, and it may be possible that maybe law enforcement might be interested, there might be other interested parties, but for now, the 3 main parties are those ones.
Good and well that the conflict between the driving schools and the transport department is resolved, and there is now an agreement on the table. But it was a month-long strike that affected some of the DLTCs here in Pretoria. A lot of motorists, of course, could not go ahead with their renewals in particular. Would there be provisions made for such motorists who lost time, who could not access the system, who could not access the DLTs? Would there be an extension made because they were inconvenienced because of this impasse?
Well, as we know that Honorable Minister Fikile Mbalula has already spoken on that matter, and he has clearly said, come end of March this year, there will not be any extensions for those who couldn't renew their driver licenses. As a province, we fully support the position of the minister. And remember that in this province of Gauteng, we have created what we call the Request a Slot campaign, in which we created multiple digital platforms for people to renew their driver licenses. And that cry that people were saying, I can't find a slot, we resolved that issue. So from where we stand as the province, the disruptions that happened on the 18th of February up to the 1st of March, followed by the strikes, those disruptions, in our view, do not warrant an extension of the period that has been granted for people to renew their driver license. So to that extent, we firmly believe we have created all the necessary avenues, platforms over time for people to renew, and we've seen the numbers, we've seen the response levels. Having said that, I would like to make a call to driver license holders that you have an online booking system. There is an Android app that has been created, and there is a web-based system as well. So there are 3 opportunities for you through which you can request and book a slot. We have also created a back office capacity. If you are encountering problems, you call us. So we are worried now not about the issues of extensions. That is not the point that concerns us at this point. We are concerned by the large number of people that are not honoring their bookings. They do not turn up, they do not show up, and the evidence is there. So the issue that we are worried about is, with good intentions, the extension may also have a very dire consequence of eroding and completely removing the authority of the licensing system, because we are seeing that people are not treating their bookings with the seriousness that it deserves. Maybe they hope there will be an extension. But we really say to the minister, in this province, we do not believe there is any ground in law that will stand the test of scrutiny in court on the extension. So to that extent, we believe people have all the platforms to apply, and they should apply and use those platforms that are there. And we fully support the minister that there shouldn't be an extension.
All right, thank you so much. We'll leave it at there. Of course, the Gauteng Transport MEC, Mr. Jacob Mamabolo, really strong words there to motorists. Just to remind you, you have until the end of March, as the MEC just reiterated from what the minister said last week. You have until the end of March to renew your licenses or to honor your online bookings that you have already made. Thereafter, there will be no extension. So in case you are hoping for an extension, you heard the MEC, there won't be any. But going back to the top story, the agreement between the driving school owners and of course the Transport Department and the RTMC. There again, you would remember that one of the main demands was that the system be scrapped. That will not be happening, as you heard the MEC saying that an advisory council has been formed, and through that council they will try and resolve all issues in a bid to find a permanent solution to, of course, some of the challenges the driving schools have been facing over the months. On that note, we toss it back to studio.